Do you believe in God, Mal?
Mal whips around. You can't be back here. This is all very fragile equipment. Please. How did you get in here? Please get out from behind the desk.
He is standing over you. Again, 6'6", 6'7", impossibly tall in this coat. These large black loafers with silver buckle. He's maybe 2 inches from you and you can smell him now. He reeks of incense. Like a censer has been with him the entirety of the day. As if he has been baptized in this smell. The smoke almost emanates off of his clothes. And he's wearing his white collar. He takes from inside his coat and places the VHS tape on the desk, completely ignoring your provocations to exit, and sets it down and moves around the desk to center back across from you, almost like God and the devil playing chess. And he repeats his question, tapping the VHS in front of you. Do you believe in God, Mal?
Mal is just kind of, much like the computer, just like wiped clean after such like a calm interaction on his end, and their definitive lack of calm. You didn't pay for this last time.
You didn't come looking for me.
You said you'd come back.
You said the authorities would come for me.
I said at a certain point they might.
Well, it appears that we have not reached that point.
No. It's 5 days. I told you 5 days is the rental.
And here I am.
$750, please.
I don't have the cash.
We take card.
Do you believe in God now?
Why are you asking me that?
I want to know what you think.
Why?
I was inspired by your story.
What are you talking about?
The way it was relayed to me. Your situation here. Your plight. And I'd like to know that in all of your experiences with you, your parents, your sister, do you believe in God? Do you believe He's the one that gave her back to you?
No. I gave her back to me. Julian gave her back to me. How do you know this? How do you know any of this? Who told you this?
You do not believe there's any divine intervention in the steps that you make to contort reality? There is no greater player.
If there is a God, which I'm not saying I believe there is, I'm just saying, for the sake of argument, if there is a God, I think there are more pressing issues on their plate than me and my sister. How did you know about us? Mal's knuckles are white on the shears. They're still under the counter because they don't want to be taken as threatening this man who might just be a weird old guy from a church. But they are primed and ready, almost shaking with the effort.
His hands extend out onto the desk, setting open-palmed onto the glass counter. One still pressed on the copy of Rosemary's Baby. From the computer next to you, almost in chiptune, an 8-bit, a composer of classical music begins to play. An opera. No vocals, just this haunting 8-bit melody. If you would like to know what it is that's playing through these speakers, you can roll me a intelligence plus, let's call it craft.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like Julian...
Or academics, whichever you think is...
I think Julian plays enough weird music around our place that maybe Mal would have an idea. 2 of 3.
Okay. 2 successes. You remember he went through this phase of identifying classical music and trying desperately to find inspiration in that in like modern dynamics, and how he could bring like an operatic sound to metal, and how can I steal from these guys who have been doing it for forever and put it into a genre I've never done and make the two kiss. And you remember that he became obsessed with metal iconography that came through classical music. And for a while there, he was searching through all of these pieces, and one of which was an opera based on the poem Paradise Lost. And you think with 2 successes on that roll, you're almost positive that this is a piece from that opera. And most notably, it involves story of the devils, the hells. But he sits across from you, hands palmed onto the counter, and he says, "Do you think that if you met God, you could tell?"
I hope not.
I really enjoy that answer.
Would you want to know God? Would you want to know that you were talking to God if you were talking to God? I mean, I guess by your words, you do talk to God, right? The music coming in concert has made Mal a little bit more aggressive. That part of their home has been taken and kind of like twisted, and I don't think they maybe fully understand that maybe this person is responsible for it, but I think the meeting of the two is enough that Mal's getting a little more combative.
I think the circumstances of my discussions with God are more complex than you would understand at face value. But with some hearty discussion between the likes of us, I think that I could illuminate to you exactly what it is that I'm presenting.
All due respect, I'm not that interested in God.
I wasn't either. I had this belief, even before him, for me, that true meaning was attainable, and that there was a purpose to life, that you could save sisters, that you could be better than those who made you. Hearing this, you must understand why I found clemency, enjoyment in your plight. I was taught by the world that those things are not attainable by any traditional means, because the world is empty. It's devoid.
The world has the meaning you give it, the purpose you give it.
The world has a group of players who decide what has meaning. On that we agree. But very few people have a say in what that is. Even in your situation, there are strings pulled and puppets that dance to their direction.
What does that mean?
Mal, do you intend on living your entire life in the ruins of this place, living out the fantasies of innovation dead, made by others? Or do you intend eventually to meet God and become a player? Become someone who can attain what your sister, your beloved, your life requires?
If being here is what they need, then I will be here. Their success is the most important thing. And nostalgia never dies. Everyone wants what they miss, what was childhood, what was familiar when things get hard. This won't die.
On that, I think that you're right. On that, I understand. Please, excuse me, I think you have another customer. Go ahead and roll me a wits plus awareness.
Two.
You manage to notice them before they enter in through the door, maybe a half a second before the chime of the Blockbuster jingle, which now manages to play in a few moments when they enter, but in this distorted, awful interpretation of the opera playing behind the computer. Looking to the door, Dot is opening the door in front of you and turning around the desk. Ezra takes this very large step back and allows Dot into frame. And with your wits and awareness roll, you do notice that Dot is wielding a 36 snub revolver in his right hand. And he is measured, shaking, panicked, and in a state of duress. Before any further actions, he levels it in one hand, grips his wrist with the other, points it at you and says, "All right, Mal, give me all the fucking money in the register. I'm done with this shit. Give me everything you got.
Don't do this.
Register.
Don't do this. I'm gonna set the... I gotta hate it. I'm gonna set the shears down, still out of sight, and put my hands up. You don't need to do this.
I fucking do. If I don't get this goddamn money, nobody's gonna be looking out for me. You think I'm gonna make it through the fucking winter? You're gonna give me every dime in that fucking register, or I'm gonna blow you out, Mal. I will.
I believe you.
I'm not fucking around anymore. I can't fucking do this anymore, Mal. Give me all the money.
There are cameras in here. They're gonna see no matter what. Mrs. S keeps the feed on her phone.
Go ahead and make a... let's see... Let's do charisma. Actually, let's do manipulation plus persuasion.
Just one.
Ezra looks between the two of you and then back up at the cameras. And Dot, who is confused and uncomfortable that somebody else is here, swivels that 36 on Ezra too, and then back on you. It starts to swivel between the two, but his eyes follow to the camera, and you see, Ezra sees, he sees that red recording dot in the corner of the Blockbuster is off.
Yeah.
All the technology in this place is either turned off or malfunctioning for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And Dot doesn't look really convinced. In fact, he turns and he fires a shot off the right-hand side that flames into a record player behind you and cascades this noise across the room.
Look, you take all the money today, and what? You don't have a job soon? This money will last you what, like a couple weeks? Then what? You can't knock over this place again. What are you gonna do?
I just gotta last till my next hit. That's all I gotta do. All I gotta do is make it 2 weeks and buy out. That's all.
No, look, let me take you into the city. Let me take you into town. There are people who can help you. People who do this for a living. People we know.
Could you give me a charisma plus streetwise roll?
Yeah. I made a little bulldog, and my little bulldog is not bulldogging right now.
Yeah.
1 success.
Oh boy, oh boy.
Yep. I only had 2 dice, so.
Ezra speaks up in this moment and looks to Dot and says, "Do you really think those shelters will keep you? A lot of people come around during Christmas. A lot of hungry mouths." And Dot is not so much convinced by Ezra, but is more put off by the aura that Ezra is giving as Ezra eyes him down like a predator and begins to become more antsy. Could you make an insight plus wits roll?
Yeah. 4 successes this time.
You're really worried.
Mm-hmm.
Huge success. You can notice from some of the telltale signs, jitters in his hands, the biting of his teeth. There are pieces where his lips have gone raw and split. He's not in a good shape. He's using, and you have maybe an awareness that he's about to fire on you now.
Cool. Then I'll slowly open the register and I'll start pulling out cash.
Okay. You go for the register. You begin to pull out cash. Dot turns around on the counter so he can really get the gun against your temple, and you can feel that cold steel press up against you as you're counting. And he takes each of the bundles as you take them out. And just as this process is starting to get going, you're going through the 20s and everything, you can see out of the corner of your eye, Ezra steps forward and he speaks, but his mouth does not move. You can hear it in this room. You can hear it through the chip-tuned voice on your computer. You can feel it in your mind. You can hear it everywhere in this room, but no movement of his mouth. He whispers, "You seek absolution of sin." And Dot immediately pulls the 36 revolver, sets it down onto the counter, looks at you square in the eyes, connects with your eyes, and whispers it back to you. "I seek absolution of sin." And then he begins to slam his face into the glass counter of the desk over and over and over again, screaming and flying his face into each new piece of glass, then past into the typewriters below, into the shelving unit as the entire thing begins to come down. Ezra keeps his eyes on you. Dot compels himself white-knuckled, holding onto that desk as he continues until he passes out completely on the front of that desk, bleeding profusely, his face pulped into the desk. And Ezra looks to you.
What the fuck did you do to him?
I prevented your robbery.
Oh, no, you didn't. You did something to him. You did something to him, and he's not a bad guy. He's in a bad place, and I have to call an ambulance. And Mal is like fumbling for the landline.
You open up the landline, you get it to your head, and there is a dial tone.
Oh fuck! And I'm dialing 911. I'm trying.
You press in 911, and you see that the front of your screen, the cell phone that you have, everything. Oh, I'm sorry. You're still on the landline.
I'm on the landline.
Excuse me. On the landline, you type in 911. There's still a dial tone. There's nothing. There is this humming, this low, slow hum of a broken line, dead line.
Fuck. Mal is like, there's a lot of blood and things are ruined, and part of their brain is stuck on like how pissed Mrs. S is going to be, and part of their brain is stuck on how the fuck am I going to explain this to Julian, and how the fuck am I going to this and this and this, and like eventually they turn to Ezra and go, "Can you wait outside for the ambulance, please?"
No one is coming for you.
I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about him. He's gonna die. He's gonna bleed out.
Is coming for him.
Just wait outside, please. You
are going to have to make a decision here, Mal.
I'm trying to.
There is a dead friend in front of you, and there's nowhere left to go.
He's not dead. He's not dead yet.
Check his pulse. Check his pulse.
I don't want to.
Check his pulse.
No.
And then Ezra reaches over, grabs the individual by the collar and flips him and reveals the gore of the dead Dot in front of you. There's no need for a pulse. You have a decision to make. You could call the authorities. You could go and fetch an ambulance. You could bring them here, and they will ask you why you are the only one alone with a dead man. With a brutal murder. His face pulped into the counter below. What answer will you give them? Something that will suffice enough to keep your sister? Something that will suffice enough that Julian will still be able to look you in the eye? What is your move, Mal?
Stop.
You couldn't stop him from taking the register. Now you must stop him from ruining your life. What do you do?
Mal's still got this landline in their hand, this useless fucking landline, and they drop it off the cradle. He just needed help, and no.
He would have killed you.
He would have.
High off his mind, confused for who you were even. Who you were left with. He would have ended you. I did what had to be done, what you couldn't do. And now you are faced with an opportunity to either grow or watch this envelop everything that you are. If you met God, do you think you would recognize him?
You're not God.
Time will tell.
There's no explanation for Mrs. S for why this is broken. That doesn't include him. If I'm keeping my sister, I have to keep a job, too.
Then I imagine you must come up with a solution.
Mal is frantic in stillness and just kind of drawn into the seep of his blood on the counter and through the keys of the typewriters and like slowly kind of toward the carpet. Take him outside.
Where?
Off the side of the road.
Now we are making decisions. And he heaves the body with one easy pull and keeps him in hand and drags Dot out with him, out through the front door. There is this trail of blood with him, but Ezra is doing his best to ensure that the crime scene is not more polluted than it is. And you can see him through the wide blockbuster windows that look out on the parking lot. You can watch as he begins to discard Dot on the side of the road by the old Murphy Bridge.
I think Mal pulls out their phone while Ezra's out of the building. I think they've started to make that connection by now. And shakily, with like a ton of typos that they have to go back and fix because they are always word perfect in their texts, they type out, there was a,
I know.
There was an accident at the store. I'm fine. Everything's fine. There's just a lot of cleanup. Gonna be home late. Give Lids a kiss for me. And then adds like an extra little yellow heart at the end. And sends it off. And the contact on their phone does read baby for Julian. And I don't even know if he knows that. I think it's a little secret thing that Mal has done, maybe just even in the last few days, to kind of move toward that something, that maybe that potential future that felt so close hours ago and now feels an impossible distance. And then they start just staring at this mess of a glass case that is destroyed now. And oh man, I think they reach out and kind of on one of the pieces that looks like it has the least amount of another person's blood on it, puts their hand on it, and then covers it, wraps it up to make it look like they were the one who fell. They were the reason that there are droplets of blood from the counter to the door.
Mal, I have to ask you this. There's a huge amount of destruction to this desk.
Yeah.
In fact, there are remnants of Dot still left in this place. We're talking about a 6x4 foot desk console that has now been broken down to the third shelf.
Mm-hmm.
I admire the moxie. How far is Mal willing to go to prove that this was them that fell?
This is their second home. This is one of the only things that is letting them keep their sister. This is... they're not a stranger to pain. This isn't that new to them.
Give me a stamina plus survival as you attempt to recreate the mess.
I think prior to Mal trying to recreate this with their own body, they clean as many of the bits, the remnants, as they can. They wipe down as much of the blood with the like cleaning supplies that they can, just like for the sake of their own contamination, basically. Not really trying to clean for the sake of cleaning, but cleaning for the sake of, I don't want to get anything that this person could have had, one way or another.
Got it.
And then we'll kind of try and lay their body in the mess in a way that seems like the most logical for, like, I had a really bad fall and it was just like I hit the glass at the right way. That's no successes.
Now remember, you can use a willpower to re-roll 3 dice, and you're human, so you have no hunger dice. So you can re-roll up to 3.
Dice here, so I'm gonna take a re-roll.
Okay, remove a temporary willpower.
All right. That is 2 successes. I think part of that manifests as like the first kind of like slice gives Mal like a pause of like, oh God, is this what I'm doing? And then it like hearing the like little bits of opera that are still plinking out of the computer steals their resolve, and they're like, this is the option, this is the only way, and it kind of bolsters them.
You go through the motions of smashing your body into this counter, trying your best not to hurt it even more, but creating a scene that matches you, and the pain is immense as you feel your skin filleted by that broken glass, and the morbid thought that you are now existing in the odd warmth of where Dot used to live a few moments ago, and the panic in your blood has not stopped the adrenaline running through you, to the point where for a moment the glass doesn't even feel like pain. It just feels like something happening to you, like the emptiness that Ezra warned you about. This is just another way the world happens. Another broken nothing. And as you come free, you're split and bleeding. And you can say essentially that you've taken, let's say, 2 superficial damage, which for you is aggravated damage here since you're human. So don't take... What's your max? Okay, so 3 more and you're dead, my friend. So don't do that.
Don't do that.
You're bleeding profusely, but go ahead and give me a manipulation plus streetwise, and let's see how well you recreate a crime. I'm going to give you a +1 because of the success on your stamina survival. Okay. What are you arguing? What you got?
I was going to say, as an artist and a person who kind of is aware of shape and the way like things lay, could I argue for craft?
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, give me craft and manipulation.
All right. And my extra 1, I'm gonna use another willpower.
Good thinking.
Three successes.
Okay. You managed to craft a scene that is near perfect to your story. You've managed to clean the scene of Dot's involvement, and you're not bleeding out entirely.
Great.
You call this a net success, and it has taken some time. You realize that if you had called 911 when you wanted to, they would have arrived by now and found you. And there is this small sort of awful gratefulness in that, or at least the fortune of the world, the nothing of the world, managed to give you a break here, and you hate that part of that has to do with Ezra. And at that thought, you look up from the scene, picking glass out from the pieces of you and trying to bandage, and you find him there against the outside glass of the recording studio, or I'm sorry, the recording studio, the rerun place, the fucking place we're at, the vintage shop.
Vintage.
Thank you. Rentage Vintal. He has pressed his face so against the glass that it is fogging up with his hot breath against the heavy snow that is starting to fall outside. And his face is contorted against the glass, and all you can see are those big black shark's eyes sitting on top of this grinning face that climbs across his old frame. And he is delighted and apparently has been watching with great intent as you recreate your scene. What's the next move, Mel?
Mal sees that, and it's that moment in a horror movie where, you see something moving over their shoulder and they turn and it becomes like sharp focus. And I think they just sit down behind the counter and are bandaging, and just I think they feel like they want to be crying and they want the tears to come, because that will be something other than this like terrified numbness that they've been feeling. But there's not, like, they can't, it won't come, and that feels worse and like cloying kind of in the back of their throat, like the last time that Ezra was here. And they've pulled like all the gauze and all the like wrap out of the first aid kit, and they've sent a message to Mrs. S saying, "Mrs. S, I'm so sorry. I had a terrible fall. I think I can fix some of them. A lot of the pieces I think can be made into parts. I'm not sure what to do about the counter. I'm so sorry." Like, just trying to lay the like groundwork of what it's supposed to be, while just like shaking with pain and adrenaline and terror.
Yeah.
Checking the window every 10-ish minutes, hoping against hope that Ezra will be gone and they can go home and clean up and see Julian and Lydia, and like what all of this is for.
There is a moment where you get that text off to Mrs. S and it says sent, and you're thinking, God, it goes off. And then the text begins to contort so that the words fall, pieces, parts continue to combine and sort of scale along the phone. Fall, pieces, parts, fall, pieces, parts, fall, pieces, parts. And you're uniquely aware that he's back in the room with you. Although no jingle of the door, no movement, he's just there again above you around the counter where he usually sits during these chess games. And you feel for a moment his hands are descending over you. Is there any movement, any action, or are you allowing this to happen?
Mal does not want this fucker to touch them. They are skittering backwards up the stairs. Pain be damned, glass on the ground be damned. They are away.
You possum into the corner. Are you running away, or are you watching what it is that he was trying to do? Are you
I'm turning to like look as I'm moving away, and like opening their mouth in like a snarl of like, get the fuck out of here. Why are you still here? Why are you still here? Why do you keep coming back?
He had both hands over the counter and an item in those hands. And as you scurry away, he instead allows it into his right hand and then drops it lengthened like a coiled snake to the floor, and dropping into a puddle of blood that you couldn't discern whether it was yours or Dot's, is a rosary clad with this beautiful, beautiful woman's portrait in prayer. clasped around these beautiful brown beads and a cross in the center. Out of any other context, this would be a work of spiritualism that might not connect with you, but was physically beautiful. The artist that made it was like you. They loved what they did. And it is beautiful wood, but seeing it soaked in the blood of who knows and gifted by him just seems out of place. And then he's gone.
Mal was breathing in to say, get the fuck out, and like scream. And not getting that near catharsis is a little like nauseating. And they pick up the rosary covered in blood and kind of crush it in their hand, not strong enough to break it, to crack it, to ruin it in any way. But they hold on to it as they pick up the pieces of glass. Still in silence, just the plinking of glass. Not even checking the computer. They're going to do the bare minimum of cleaning up so Mrs. S doesn't come back to blood and biohazard, essentially. But again, wrapping up extremely quickly, extremely shoddily, kind of putting tape around the ruined thing, sending another text to Mrs. S saying, I'll come in first thing in the morning after I drop Lydia off and we can discuss what we're going to do. I'm so sorry again. We need to figure out maybe a way to clear some of the paths. Just like something like that.
It is more quiet than it has ever been in this store as you pick up each piece. And it becomes that quiet that is so strong it actually creates noise, that awful buzz in your ear that usually most people will drown with music, with media, with anything in this place. But it sits with you as you pick those glasses and you those glass pieces up and you send that text out. It takes hours to clean, even shoddily enough to make this place presentable for you to come back in the morning. Let's say 2:30 in the morning is around the time that you effectively feel that you can lock up.
Mal locks up. Still a head on a swivel, but just done with the day, done with whatever's happened. Avoids looking at that lamp or at that light under which Dot was waiting just a few days ago. Starts driving home over the bridge, sees a lump on the side of the road, and rolls down their window. The rosary has not left their fist. And as they cross the bridge, they throw the rosary over the side and into the water below.
Could you please make a dexterity plus drive roll?
Two.
The car begins to hydroplane as your focus takes over that lump that you know is Dot, and the rosary flies over the Murphy Bridge. Your foot, numb from the adrenaline, feeling nothing, had clawed into the gas pedal, and you realized you were going faster than you needed to. With one hand on that steering wheel and the other with the rosary throwing, you've pulled the wheel too far right, and the car is beginning to skid either way on the heavy ice that has gone over Murphy Road.
Mal tries to correct, do the not overcorrect, but the correct back towards the center of the lane. It's so late that there's probably no one in the other lane, so even if they do overcorrect, it's maybe not going to be that much of an issue, but they'd rather not risk it, just trying to keep some semblance of control.
The second that you go to correct, You put your hands on the steering wheel, you toss this rosary, you've come back to life. You know for a fact what's happening. You've been here before. You know what to do. But he's right there in front of you. Ezra has appeared in front of the car. Just this flash of an appearance at that last moment. Roll me a composure plus drive to keep things together as this man materializes in front of you.
1 die for this. It is a critical success, though.
Oh, okay. Well, without your matching critical, it is unfortunately just a success. But
Yep.
we do love that coming in clutch.
Mm-hmm.
The car manages not to hydroplane, but instead to turn. So preventing the car from rolling, you're now going towards the edge of Murphy Bridge as your tires begin to skid out, as these black roll across the bridge begins. You can smell the burning rubber. You can smell the cold air outside. It's stinging your lungs with the windows still down. You can feel the snow pelting the side of the car. And above all that, you smell incense. But he's gone already. And you're heading towards the barrier that takes off into Murphy's runoff, into a fall that any car would struggle to survive. What's the move?
I think it's just like a last-ditch attempt to pull back, to just rein the car in, because I think that instinct of like, I can't hit another human person, so I'm going to turn, but knowing that it's who it is, they're like, the cognitive brain takes over as they try and like, it's like the slalom kind of jerking back and forth.
So you're going left, you pull hard right, hoping that you're going to skirt the edge with the back of your car and sort of spin out into the middle.
Yeah.
Perfect. Give me a drive plus dexterity. I will tell you that the difficulty is high here.
Yeah, there's almost no way I can survive this because I only have dex. But I do get 3 successives somehow.
Beautiful. You begin to pull back around. You succeed on this drive roll. The back of your car skirts against the railing enough that sparks begin to fly out the back of you. And you can hear the grind of metal through the open window. And that's when you can feel the tires begin to tip. As your back hits that railing, you fly over and you're uniquely aware that the car is rolling. Is there anything you'd like to do as the car begins to enter this free fall, as the world begins to float above you, as nothing begins to make sense? You still can't feel your feet, you can't feel your body, the adrenaline is so high in you, and in your mind, you're picturing Dot and that slump of a body right next to you.
Mal kind of feels that this is like the first tinges of hopelessness, kind of. Not the first tinges of hopelessness. The tinges of hopelessness that they've fought so hard against for so long. And that they thought maybe they were right to fight against. Maybe there was a reason. Maybe there was hope. Maybe there was a future. It kind of starts to bleed back into their mind like ink spilled over paper. And they, their brain kind of reaches, in their mind's eye, they reach for their phone, and they, like, in this kind of bullet time of free fall, they can see themselves like picking up their phone and hearing Julian's voice again and hearing Lydia's voice again, and a future where they didn't fuck up the car and they got home and Julian was there to patch up their wounds and to kiss their bandages, and Lydia was there to snuggle against them, all warm and little and soft and theirs. And it whips by as they kind of plummet. This one last life that could have been.
For a moment, that phone in hand, you're imagining those memories. It's easier to imagine as the fuzz, the static of that phone continues to cascade, as you're uniquely aware that even in this other life, Ezra's with you. But Eventually, even in that free fall, that roll of the car as it begins to cascade over the street and sort of hang off the side of Murphy Bridge, and you're uniquely aware that you've become upside down. The phone lands onto the ceiling, which is now the floor, and you're hanging in by your seatbelt. But the glow of that cell phone turns on to its typical screensaver, one of Lydia and you hugging each other, holding each other, and a text notification pops up at the very top from Baby that reads, "You got it, sunshine. See you at home." And the car begins to plummet and cascade over the top as it descends into the runoff below. There's a massive crash, and your vision goes black. The next moment, someone is pulling you free from the car. Could only be him. The next portion is a dream, a cavalcade of moments that come at you out of time, out of frame. It happens in seconds and in hours and in minutes. Ezra approaches you with two others. Make a wits plus awareness.
Still with no hunger dice?
Still with no hunger dice.
Okay.
Not hungry yet.
3.
You recognize one of these individuals. Is it the left or the right?
Left.
You recognize a woman you went to high school with. She was in your grade. She's very popular. She's part of the drama team. She won at comps that year. And right now, she is drenched in blood from her chin down to the base of her neck and dripping in this red ichor and standing directly behind Ezra. The other, you're almost positive you know from around town. Someone that you've seen almost every day. You can't remember who. And the rapt attention of your pain, of your wounds. Still numb, still filled with adrenaline in the night air as the snow falls about you, but that horrible haze of pain is taking over, and you're in and out of consciousness. And then Ezra is on top of you, and then at your neck, and then there is something new to you, and you pass out. You awake in the main foray of a church, on top of a pew. It is empty and dark, save for 2 candelabras that are lit on the stage. And as you come to, you are experiencing this deep, cold, and even worse past that cold emptiness, even worse past that full blackness, that loss of everything, is a hunger that sits in that empty room you call a heart now. There is moments where even this, the living portion of your dead life, that your eyes go fully black and you lose vision for the obsidian that takes over. And there is nothing to you but this hunger. You can set yourself at 3 hunger for the duration until you have fed.
Mm-hmm. Mal, as the first conscious thing that they've had maybe control of their body, frantic, feeble struggles notwithstanding, kind of doubles over, as you do when you have a bad stomach ache, and just kind of tries to breathe through it and straighten up and folds again. Just trying to find that human way of working out a stomach ache, like a chest pain, just like trying to move it out. And it's not working. And they're scared and confused and lost, and kind of fall to the ground and crawl out of the pews because maybe someone's there to help.
You crawl out and exploring this area. The room is clearly empty from what you can tell. Even with a wits and awareness, you would find that no one is here. But you do find in the pew that you were left in, there is an item there, if you'd like to investigate.
I'll reach over and pick it up.
There is a VHS copy of Rosemary's Baby.
Fuck.
And at the very bottom, in a sticker that you put, that is in fact inspected by you, your little signature is at the bottom. It reads 5-day rental.
Mal doesn't pick it up.
Okay.
Mal leaves it there. Thinks about crushing it and thinks about throwing it on the ground to smash it. Still can't bring themselves to do it.
Mal, what are you going to do about this hunger that you have never felt in your life? An emptiness that supersedes everything that you are. It is a blackness that sits underneath your skin. You no longer have veins. You no longer have blood. You no longer have the things that make humans humans. You have an empty pit in you. How are you going to fill it?
How aware of that am I?
You feel unlike you have ever felt in your entire life. You feel as though your mouth is cigarette ash. The insides of you are empty, like a balloon might be. You feel as though you have no innards. And you are uniquely aware that parts of you that were there are gone, and parts of you that should be there will no longer be. You feel cold. You feel like a plastic bag. You feel like a vessel, not a person.
I think Mal remembers from the handful of times that they were dragged physically to church, that there's sometimes a kitchen, and not really knowing what other kind of food to look for, starts to kind of totter their way that way, kind of leaning against walls when the wave of hunger seems to overtake them, and then clawing their way forward.
Could you give me a wits plus awareness? Let's see if you can make it. Remember, you have 3 hunger die.
Oh, that's right. It's time for hunger die.
And now, if you roll bestial failures, of course, those will
matter.
So will messy criticals.
Yeah.
But as long as you succeed, those never matter. The only situation where those failures will matter is if we fail to roll completely.
Right. I don't have anything on the red, but I do have 2 successes.
Good. 2 successes, no failures. Great. Or 2 successes, 1 nothing. Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
3 nothings.
You find what you believe to be the kitchen on this estate just fine. You also find that the door is locked.
Fuck.
You do see that there are glass windows. It's an old Catholic church. They put windows on fucking everything. And you could easily break in that way. You could try the lock if you have any chance for lock picking. Or you could find somewhere else to be.
I mean, if it's a consuming hunger.
It is the worst hunger you have ever had in your life. You feel as though you haven't eaten in months. And it is not like the gnawing at the stomach that it usually is, where you know your stomach is empty. Your hunger transfers across every part of your body. You can feel your mind is hungry. You can feel that the emptiness seeps into your eyes, that every blink costs you that much more energy. And you can feel these undulating waves of pain, of hunger, of need. It is the only thing that abstracts from the emptiness.
Then I think Mal is gonna pick up a one of those big tall candle holders. I don't know what they are.
Candelabra.
Yeah, that. I'm gonna pick up one of those and I'm gonna just shove it through the window.
Okay. Give me a strength plus, let's call that melee. Unless you want to make an argument for brawl.
They're the same for me.
Or and I have larceny, I suppose, since you're using this to break in.
I'll stick with melee, if that's
Got
okay.
it. Yeah, whatever you want.
Okay. I have a success on a black, a success on a red, and a bestial failure on a red.
You succeeded on the roll, so the bestial failure does not bother us. You break through that window, there is a huge sound of breaking panes of glass, but you make a Mal-sized entrance to this church kitchen. And on entry, you trying to be stealthy about this? Are you trying to sneak around, or is this hunger in the way of that? It's up to you. We can try another roll. I love any opportunity to give you a bestial failure.
I think after like the noise, because it had been quiet in there, so after the noise, I think it kind of woke a little tiny voice in Mal's brain up about like, hey, that was loud, you're not supposed to be in here, maybe sneak around a little better. So I think after that moment, they kind of switch tactics and start trying to stay low and stay in the shadows.
Give me a dexterity plus stealth.
Mm-hmm. I love to give my GM reasons to kill me.
Yeah.
I got 3 successes, though, and 1 failure on a red, but...
We avoid the paradox of having to kill you in the past to have you be alive in the future. You managed to stealth around. You've always been pretty good at not being seen when you don't want to be. It's the curse of being in a family like yours. You are either speaking up all of the time or none of the time, and that's the burden you carry. But even more than that, Mal, it feels different now. You felt like a shadow. You don't even think you heard your footsteps. It was like you glided in between the panes of glass. It was like you slid through the open, shattered space you made, like you were nothing. Like you weren't even there. And you appeared on the other side, and you had small, vivid flashbacks to looking up and finding him there, ringing the bell. And at the sound of that ringing bell, you snap back into reality in the mess hall. There is a light left on, a small over-the-oven light. It is the only thing that gives light in here. It's a pretty updated kitchen in a very old room, which is true of most Catholic architecture. The fridge is new, the stove is newer, the cabinets seem to be full, but everything else looks dusty as fuck and built in the 50s. And there's this big center island. You imagine that you can find some food here. What is it you're looking for? What is it you're hungry for, Mal?
I think Mal, their mind kind of goes to their kind of like standard like peanut butter jelly, like thick, kind of filling, you know, not too much, but like enough weight to take that bite out. But I don't know that sounds appetizing anymore. And they cast around for something else, for crackers, for fruit, for vegetables, for like things that were a treat before.
You said,
and none of it sounds good.
You set all this out on the kitchen island in front of you. None of it really appealing. The second that you get to one good idea, it becomes the worst and you move on. With it all out in front of you, do you partake in any of this?
I think it's so unappetizing. Every time they look at it, it almost makes the hunger worse. And they finally just like go to the fridge or the freezer looking for something like that you know, when you're really stoned and you're like, I want a snack. You open the fridge and you just kind of stare into the snack void. I think
love
it's that, but like the angry version of it.
You're fucking pissed.
Yeah.
In fact, I think you probably pull the hinge off of this fridge and it cracks off and breaks in your hand. You're suddenly realizing you're a lot more powerful than you usually are, and it cracks immediately. And one of the newer appliances in this room makes a little less sense. There is a smell that wafts off the inside of this fridge that must be leftovers from a luncheon the day before or some sort of fundraiser that was left over. The food smells as you remember food, but the smell entering your body is so visceral that you feel sick to your stomach immediately. Could you make a resolve plus willpower? However many dots you have today, remember you spent 2. So whatever's left plus your resolve, that's your pool.
Okay. Two successes.
2 successes. You manage just barely to hold back the vomit in your mouth. In fact, it does bubble up and enter your mouth and give you that awful bile feel.
Salsa burps.
Yes, and you put your hand to your lips to hold back, and what touches to your fingers is this black, barely red ichor that sits on the front of your fingers and sticks like tar to you. It imagines how the peanut butter and jelly might have stuck to your ribs is how it flits about the top of your fingers. Go ahead and make another stealth plus dexterity.
I have 1 success and 1 skull.
Okay. Welcome back.
Yep. Yeah.
Good to be playing again.
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, so the skull, as we know, is a bestial failure. 1 success does not cut it with breaking of the fridge, the crashing of food. We've made a lot of noise in pursuit of food and then caught ourselves puking, or held back puking. And as you shut that fridge closed, you see to your left in the hallway of an open door threshold, standing there, terrified, with their cell phone light on, in pajamas, this large, basically full-body pajama, is what you can only assume is a nun who lives on the property.
Oh, no.
She is maybe in her 70s. She is red-headed with these streaks of gray that are starting to rip into the swirl of curly red hair she has on top of her. She is without makeup, without habit, without any of her dressings, and she looks mortally terrified and is clutching a rosary about her neck in the other hand. Mal, you suddenly become uniquely aware of what you have been missing, of what never made it onto the kitchen island, what really you have been desiring to have since the moment you woke up. You can see in hypered focus in bullet time the thrum of this vital old woman's neck as blood begins to pump throughout all of her. Just past the rosary, you imagine the blood moving along that highway, hot and fresh and ready. You know that she is full of it, so you could be too. You could fill yourself up again. You could end this emptiness if you only took her. I need you to make a blood frenzy test at the sight of this.
Would you remind me how that is calculated?
Willpower plus a third of your humanity rounded down.
Okay. So willpower
what's your humanity?
right now? My humanity was at 7, now it's at 6.
Okay.
So a third of it is 2. Okay. Great.
Well, we'll just do 7 since you started with 7 humanity. You haven't lost your humanity yet.
It'd still be 2, I think.
Okay.
Either way.
Go for it.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
Got a messy critical.
Listen, this happens to everyone.
The dice have a story to tell.
The dice they're with us. They know how this goes. Mal, what does this look like?
Mal zeroes in on the rosary clutched to her chest and remembers another rosary soaked in blood. And they blink, and they're holding a rosary soaked in blood. And they're not as hungry anymore. And it's almost like they weren't there for it. It's almost like they went away, and when they came back, they weren't hungry anymore. And this poor woman is just splayed out underneath them, devoid of any signs of life. And they're clutching this bloody rosary again.
Could you give me a willpower plus resolve to see if there's any chance that she survives this? In the interest of preserving your humanity.
Yeah. Still 3 hunger dice. Okay, alright. I have a critical.
Okay.
So 5. Oh, and the bestial failure doesn't matter because I have a critical, right?
As long as 5 succeeds, which it absolutely does. So
Okay,
the
great.
bestial failure does not come across here. You manage somehow in that fugue state to stop at the very last second. And she has maybe the shallowest breath a 7-year-old could ever give you. And maybe she won't survive the aftermath, but she definitely is still breathing. She looks almost at peace. And you remember faintly the only thing from that fugue state is that while you were eating, she was saying the Hail Mary. You are brought back. You are standing over her unconscious form, and you are in the mess hall creating a lot of sound. But you're fully fed, and we'll say that you are down to 0 hunger. Let's call it 1 hunger.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
I think Mal's gonna go outside and try to find a payphone or something to call 911 and do what do you call it? Unlisted caller.
Yeah, an anonymous report.
Yeah, anonymous report. That's it.
You do have your cell phone.
Oh, I do?
Yeah.
Wow.
Still left with you.
Mal's kind of surprised as they pat down their pockets. They've always had a couple little film canisters in one pocket, and as they pat down the other, their phone is there, and they pull the phone out and they open it up like they're gonna call 911.
There is an awful pixelation on the screen as it is wiped through with this static that is unreadable. You panic at first. That could be Ezra.
Yeah, they fully turn in a circle and back themselves against a wall and are
roll me a
making
wits
sure.
plus awareness.
And then I've rolled this multiple times and I don't know why I have to keep looking at it. But 4 successes.
Brad, you're silent, frozen, cascading your eyes around this place about 1,000,000 times. If he is here, he's a lot more stealthy than you understand. But then the phone begins to whine and screech in this awful tonal noise that is almost like a scream you recognize. Either yours, maybe Lydia's, maybe your mother's, but it's a voice you recognize. It is warbled and awful and pixelated. and it screeches out from the center of the phone. This thing's unusable. Are you looking for that payphone?
Yeah, I think so. I think Mal will shove it back in their pocket, maybe trying to find a way to shut it off, but not spending too much time on it instead, and instead running outside or looking, like going to see if they can find a payphone or anything.
It's an old church. They absolutely still have one of the old relics as we're moving into the 2000s, 2010s. They're one of the only places in town that still have one, but it's there. You pull it out, you put it to your ear, and it's dead.
Fuck.
You try the one right next to it, dead as well. The whole well is broken.
Fuck. Fuck. I think Mal's next thought is of the candles and what's gonna get... Sorry. What's gonna get emergency services called more quickly than a fire?
See?
Maybe not understanding who or what they are entirely yet. And kind of runs back to the chapel?
Yeah.
Where the candles
that's
were?
a word. You get back into the mainstay of the church, the chapel right there by the pews, and you do see those candelabras burning. There is this primordial fear that fills you the second that you begin to move closer to them. Before, you had kept your distance long enough, and the hunger in you was so powerful that it defied everything else, or maybe it was battling for space in that empty vacuum of your body. But now that you're fed and you're warm and you can feel the color coursing through that ugly empty nebula you call a form, it's time to be afraid of this. The fire itself flickering in those candles give you this reviled goose flesh across your entire form, and you want to scream and run and claw out of your own skin, and there's a voice inside of you: stay away from that. It's not for us. It's too bright. Stay away. Too bright. Stay away.
I think at that revelation and that kind of primal sense, Mal gives in a little bit and just runs.
Okay.
Out the door.
You run.
Away.
Is there any attempt on the way out to toss those candelabras over? I don't want to destroy the idea. Just getting close is hard for you.
I think maybe like they grab a hymn book on the way and kind of chuck it indiscriminately behind them.
Let's see how well you can frisbee that into the candelabras. Give me a dexterity plus... We'll call this brawl.
Brawl. Book brawl.
Book brawl.
2 successes.
2 successes, we'll call that a win. The candelabras knock over into each other, and there's this big as a rug begins to catch fire and grow in length and campfire, essentially. And right in time, because you are, even at this distance, terrified as that fire begins to pick up. And it feels as though there's something inside of you scratching like a rat trapped under bodies to claw its way out of your ribs. It is your first acquaintance with what can only be referred to as the beast, as it is fed and awakened in you and already trying to keep you alive. You run out of the church, down the street. Where do you go from here? And let's extend from the micro to the macro. Let's assume that this scene comes to an end. What's the next big move?
I think there's an inclination to go home. There's a desire, certainly, to go home, to forget this weird days, whatever, however long it's been. And then the memory of that hunger comes back, and the memory of waking up with a woman barely alive underneath them, and they're still holding on to this rosary that is covered in her life force. And they just have this horrible flash to Lydia, to Julian, to Mrs. S, back to Dot. And that fear kind of halts them in their tracks. Am I still in Flagstaff?
Running down the street, investigating long enough, you do realize that you are still in Flagstaff. Yes, you are on the edges of the northern part of the city, the vintage store being a part of the west, and then you living in the center of Flagstaff.
Yeah.
But wherever he left you close. You also find in your investigations that you lost a day. It is 4 days left on a 5-day rental. And you realize that if time works the way you think it does, that 5-day rental comes free on Christmas.
Mal, I mean, man. They kind of skid to a stop in the middle of a street, in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere of their own city. And I think they're gonna just start looking for Ezra, for lack of anything else, because he was the last person, and he was the one who was there, and who was the reason that they crashed. He was the reason that everything terrible at the store happened. He is the reason recently. And I think going to find him and trying to find him means answers, means getting home sooner in their mind. So I think it's a almost aimless wander with a specific goal in mind.
Okay. I would like for you to make an investigation plus wits roll. This is just a general investigation, and then I would like to tell you a specific move, or I'd like you to tell me a specific move you're making to try and locate where Ezra might be in Flagstaff.
Okay.
So let's go with that general one to see if it helps you out.
1 success.
Okay, we'll take that 1 success. Beautiful. Nothing on your hunger die?
The success was on my hunger die.
Okay, cool. 1 is still a success. The second is, what is the method do you think that Mal is trying to locate?
The bridge is the last place they saw him. So I think the bridge is the move right now.
Okay. So you're going out to Murphy Bridge, and you're going to scope out the location, see if you can find something. Give me a wits plus awareness for that.
Four.
Okay, massive success. You find, as you've picked a stealthed location within the tree line, and you're watching from Murphy Bridge, and you're trying to find answers all of that night, you find that woman that was there from your embrace with Ezra has, on the hour, essentially, come back to Murphy Bridge, to the location where your car has fallen through, and where a police crime scene has been set up, or at least caution tape, and they've, basically trying to fix Murphy Bridge. But she stands at the edge of the bridge, surveys the area very clearly, looking for something around this area. And then, when discovering nothing at each top of the hour for as many hours as you stay here, she immediately gets into a car and drives away, only to come back an hour later. How long are you here?
At least 2 hours. At least enough to see her repeat the cycle a couple times. And I think... Can I hide over the edge of the bridge so that the next time she comes, I can pop out?
Yeah, absolutely. Give me a stealth plus dexterity.
Four successes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, you easily clamber under and over the edge, essentially keeping yourself in this precarious position over the bridge that killed you. And at the top of the next hour, she does come, and you can feel the sound of her footsteps in these big dog mark boots as she steps up to the sidewalk. She's in a tank top herself in this big windbreaker jacket that goes down to her thighs, and then these cargo pants underneath, dressing a lot more militant than she used to. And coming from a deeply spiritual family that was a lot more hippie than they ever were Christ-like, it feels odd to see her wear a rosary around her neck. But she sets to the edge and doesn't seem to notice you.
I think Mal will, just from their hiding spot, not coming out of it. Why do you keep coming back here, Lindsay?
It's not my name anymore, and I'm looking for you.
Why?
We're trying to see how you're doing. Trying to see if you're actually going to make it.
What the bad. Everything's bad.
It seems okay right now. We just heard about a church burning.
What happened? What were you, you were covered in, what am I? What did you do?
You died, babe. That's what happened. It's what happens to all of us.
Then why am I here?
Because what happens now only happens to some of us. You get special bonus features.
I just want to go home. I don't want to be this.
There's no going home. There's only going forward. And what you are right now is a lot better than what you would have been without him.
That's not true.
And you're going to find out. It's a lot colder out here than you think. A lot more empty than anybody understands. Flagstaff, it's been a fucking nowhere town for forever. It's going to continue to be. But Father's going to change that.
No. I just wanted home. I didn't want this. I didn't want power. I didn't want strength. I wanted home.
Well, sometimes we're called to a higher purpose.
Fuck a higher purpose.
Listen.
I had my higher purpose.
I'm doing you a favor right now. I'm not even supposed to be engaging. I shouldn't be saying anything to you. In fact, I should be slitting your throat and teaching Father that you shouldn't even be with us. But I'm going to do you a kindness because we know each other, Mal. And I feel for you. I really do. God, when Ezra told me about your sister, I thought how hard being a parent would be on you.
Fucking talk about her.
Especially when how sensitive you were in high school.
Shut up.
Listen, if you do make it past these next 4 days, I'm really excited to see each other again. And if not, well, we all saw it coming.
Fuck you.
Stay good, Mal. Stay alive. It's almost dawn.
Rotten hell.
She picks up And she gets into her car and she drives away. You can't really tell time without a cell phone that works. Does she carry a watch?
Well,
is it mechanical?
I feel like there's a chance Mal might have carried like a mechanical watch.
Give me a wits plus craft. Let's see if they're artsy enough.
Yeah. Oh, 4 successes on 4 dice.
You have an hour left on that mechanical clock that you've had to wind every hour to keep on time. But damn if it is not accurate now. You have an hour before dawn.
I kiss the pocket watch that I keep because it's something consistent.
And that thought worries you. That voice pipes up again in the back of you. And the furthest reaches parts of you that are dark and empty. It speaks. You cannot let that time happen to us. You must find dark.
Mal starts kind of pushing towards, not towards Rentage Vintal necessarily, but in that direction, because that's a more rundown part of town. And they try to think of any, like, derelict building that they've passed that hasn't had really any life in it.
Give me a wits plus streetwise.
I am not streetwise. It's cocked. It's 1 success.
The only place that comes to mind is Dot's old hangout. There was a using house on the outskirts where him and a lot of other people without housing would stay. And that's the only place you can think of. You do find it. There's luckily no one there when you bed down.
Mal crawls into the attic, probably.
Perfect. Give me a wits plus survival to see if you can make the room sunproof.
That is another 1 success.
Beautiful. We'll take it. You are staying in this place, waking up the next night with 3 nights left on your rental. I'd like to reach a conclusion here. I'd like to see what it is you do to prepare for the judgment of Ezra in 3 days. Is there anything you do knowing that it seems like from what Willow told you, from what you'll see. What Willow told you, what Ezra put on, or at least put in that church for you, the iconography behind everything you've done thus far is that looks like you have 3 days before he appears before you again. What are the preparations like? It's okay if it's just a waiting game, too. It's also, in 2 days, Christmas Eve. And your little Charlie Brown Christmas tree is sitting in the living room of a certain apartment.
There's one night where Mal does a little bit of B&E. As a kind of like last goodbye, almost. Finds a what are they called? A melodica and a lap harp, which are 2 pretty basic instruments, but Julian had found a melodica that just like no matter what we did, we couldn't get it to work. And the last lap harp he had got pretty bad water damage in the basement of his mom's house. So Mal goes and finds those. Goes and finds a notebook that's got just like a space design on it. Like it's not necessarily like full cosmos, but it's like there's an astronaut floating and there's a spaceship. And they steal like a star projector and just like a bunch of, and like a hood, a NASA hoodie, just a handful of little things. And they don't leave it at home. They don't go by the house. They're not even going to risk maybe seeing them, because that would break any resolve that they have. And instead, they hide it in a bush next to where Julian usually parks at the community college. And they leave like a piece of pink tape kind of plastered and pointing in that direction. And they sit there at that parking spot in front of those gifts until it's almost too late, until the sun almost comes up, until they are sprinting back because they made a promise. And even in death, that promise will not be broken if they can help it.
The gifts are left, and you chase down the sun into the morning of Christmas Eve. You finally get back just in the nick of time before the flames start to eat at you, before the sun starts to bury in your bones, and you fall into that deathless sleep. You wake up uniquely aware that at midnight marks the 5th day. Where do you go to meet Ezra?
Okay, edit this out if we need to. Half of my Mal brain is saying just fucking run. Mm-hmm. Half of my Mal brain is saying we're going down in a blaze of glory, which okay. I know Mal isn't going to do. Ideally, because I do have to go to Vegas at some point. For the story that you are interested in telling.
I'm interested in telling your story. If Mal doesn't fucking show, Mal doesn't fucking show, man.
God, it's such a okay.
You don't tell me. I don't even want to edit that out. I want the audience to see, because if Mal doesn't go, then that's the story we're telling. If Mal leaves for Denver, Mal leaves for Denver.
I'm so torn, because I'm really, really interested in
what I have to say.
What?
In what I have to say.
I am very interested in what you have to say, because you are a wonderful storyteller, and I love playing pretend with you.
Well, thank you.
But I'm interested in the idea that Mal doesn't show up and only shows up to see Ezra when Julian and Lydia are directly being threatened.
So this would be the first meeting is in season 2. We see the return between. I like that. Okay.
That's kind of where I'm leaning, because I think that's interesting.
On the 5th
and I
day,
like that Mal's a coward sometimes.
Midnight strikes, and you're uniquely aware that he's probably waiting at that church. Must have been why the VHS was there. Must have been why you were left there. It ends there, on his turf rather than yours. But maybe there's something in the back of your mind now, thinking of that first time that he came to you, where you explained the rules to how this is played. And he asked what would happen if he just left. And so maybe you'd like to give him a taste of his own medicine. In the attic of this transient place, you find yourself waking up enshrouded in shadow. You find a flyer for a club. Club Asylum. Locations in Denver, Colorado, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and a beautiful goth clown, barely any strips of clothing, cascaded over a couch, is the only true advertisement as she sits there in her straitjacket. And it seems as good a place as any. It's midnight. How does Mal leave?
At Rentage Vintal, where Ezra found them, they write a note on the back of the asylum. Oh, hold on. The cat food feeder is going. It's like the old days. It's like the old days with the timer.
Yeah. Hey, it's just the La Sombra static.
Yeah, that's
throwing out the vintage.
They go to Rentage Vintal. On the back of the asylum poster, in a little bit of a middle finger, they write, "Come find me, fucker." They tape it to the side of the building, and they start hitchhiking.
It's a long hike, and it's tough realizing your new condition. It traces out any chance of making progress during the day, and every new night is a reminder that if you don't have somewhere to sleep, you have somewhere new to die. Mm-hmm. And that beast keeps you going. You feed off of anyone who will take you along the way, and eventually you land in Denver, Colorado. Beautiful, beautiful. And you arrive at a goth club called Club Asylum, where a very beautiful waitress takes your order and explains that they can't wait to be a bouncer. Is there anything else you would like to tell us before we draw this origin session to a close?
I don't think so. I think anything else that'll come out of this will come out in game.
Yeah. And you know what? We initially thought that we would maybe see the meeting between Ezra and Mal here. But I think it's even better that we have a long, long reunion in the city of beautiful neon lights. In a penthouse suite at the Aria Casino, where a proposition waits.